Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are to discuss the position of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. I am defending myself and haven't heard from the press release of one of his lead counsel, Agabi, of course, one of the most respected sons and former Attorney General of the Federation, came to say, we respect his decision to defend himself. Nnamdi Kanu has the right to defend himself, and we respect his decision. We wish him all the best. Wow, that is quite interesting. As Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, who has been under incarceration, subjugation by the Nigerian government, who, of course, trial has remained endless and indefinite as concerns continue to grow, calling for his unconditional release, that Nnamdi Kanu deserves justice and not denied such. But from the foregoing, from from the perspective of the public, they are beginning to say that this delay could simply mean denial of his justice so desired, as an appellate court of law within the Nigerian legal jurisprudence on the 13th of October 2022 expressly declared Nnamdi Kanu not guilty, innocent of all the alleged and strong charges levied against him, bordering on treason and terrorism, which eventually was set aside. But upon assuming office, Tinubu's administration, unfortunately, for whatever reason best known to him, decided to contradict the position of the court's ruling. The substantive court ruling was stayed as a result of the state of execution by Tinubu's administration, compelling the Attorney General of the Federation to put a stop or to put aside an overwhelming court verdict that was given in favor of Nnamdi Kanu, which in history of Nigerian legal system, there have not been such precedents where an accused discharged and acquitted by a competent court of law could continue the same trial for which the count charges was set aside, dismissed, and Nnamdi Kanu was declared innocent under Nigerian law. Under Nigerian legal system, he was tried and was found not guilty of the strong charges or allegations levied against him by the same Nigerian appellate court of law, upheld his innocency. And people have questioned, of course, the sincerity and the right of the president to put a stay of execution over an overwhelming court verdict. It's very unfortunate as Nnamdi Kanu court resumes. Justice James Omotoso said Nnamdi Kanu has a case to answer, and people have been reasoning and skeptic about the honesty and sincerity on the part of Justice James Omotoso to dispense the course of justice, despite the fact that Nnamdi Kanu legal counsel filed a no case submission. The sort was struck out by the same Justice James Omotoso, giving Nnamdi Kanu a window, of course, to constitute his defense. And in the course of this, today, Nnamdi Kanu has proven, of course, that he has the capacity, the intellectual capacity and competence to defend himself, having relieved his legal counsels their duties and said, well, I will defend myself. I am defending myself, and these are the reasons why I am defending myself. It will be interesting for my audience to understand that Nnamdi Kanu do not take this part or decide to defend themselves without reasons. He have considered several options, and from the foregoing, he could make an informed decision that no, these are one of his talking points or positions being expressed, that I would defend myself. It is my right to self-determination. And we are yet to see from the Nigerian government to prove otherwise, that it is not the right of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu to self-determination. It's not his right to pursue the self-determination. That is just the argument around this. Indirectly, the federal government is trying to suppress that right and privileges enshrined in Nigerian constitution and international laws, which Nigeria happens to be a signatory to these conventions and international treaties. It is quite an interesting development, and indeed, the international community are watching closely, monitoring what is going on. It is no longer time and season to keep mute or quiet or to appear to be indifferent about the plight of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. We've heard allegedly the Burkina Faso Traore is indicating interest, compelling African Union, Russia, and other international communities to prevail over Nigeria concerning Mazen Nnamdi Kanu continuous incarceration, which had been considered unlawful and unjust. It is very interesting, honestly. Now, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu has come to say, I am defending myself because my lawyers are too afraid to mention names. I am defending myself because my lawyers are too afraid to mention names. Possibly they may want to defend their, of course, their occupation or their jobs. They wouldn't want to, of course, step on toes and the rest of them. But Mazen Nnamdi Kanu said, no, the truth must be said without fear of favor. I will defend myself. If you feel that is not convenient for you, I will defend myself. The Ohamadike of Biafra, of course, has taken the bull by the horn. And eventually, and this will not, the events and happenings will eventually will not remain the same. He wasn't joking. He wasn't mincing words about that. Haven't listed 23 witnesses which he considered very important and compelling witnesses, comparable witnesses, aside the material witness. You have over 23 vital and comparable witnesses, among which were the top politicians, past and immediate, retired generals, and there's quite an interesting development. Even sitting governors were captured in this case, or in this instance. And this have sent a wave of panic, uncertainty, engulfing the entire political atmosphere. And people are now being apprehensive of what will definitely become the next line of action. For him to have taken this bold step in the history of Nigerian legal system, a man who is not a practicing lawyer, defending himself, and his position to defend himself is sending a very serious quake in the foundation of the Nigerian unity and continued existence. He is about to expose the hidden truth, the truth most covered by the Nigerian politicians, which they don't want to be disclosed, according to that statement. Let's read on here. I am defending myself because my lawyers are too afraid to mention names. I will say it live. I will say it live here in the courtroom. When I'm done with Nigeria, then I can die in peace. Wow, that is quite a very heavy statement. He said, I will say it live here in the courtroom. When I am done with Nigeria, then I can die in peace. Wow, why is Nigeria holding such a man with such conviction, unquestionable conviction, and irreversible conviction, a conviction born out of a deep-seated love, concern for humanity? He was not selfish about his pursuit. He was not selfish about his ambition, his quest to ensure there is equity, fairness, and justice to all, not just the Biafran people or the Igbo people and their Eastern brothers. He meant well for everyone, whether you are Yoruba or Hausa or Fulani and the rest of them. He's only calling for justice, equity, and fairness, equitable distributions, and equal opportunities. Of course, without silencing certain interests and certain personalities of voice or regions of ethnic nationality just because you want to get them suppressed. He said, when I am done with Nigeria, then I can die in peace. While Nnamdi Kanu will not die, of course, in the cause of fighting for his people. We so much cherish him. If you don't, I do cherish his commitment, his tenacity, his courage, his daring spirit, his sincerity, and uncompromising tenacity to defend the cause of his people, to be a voice to the voiceless, to be someone standing for the oppressed population of the Eastern people. If he were to be motivated by personal interest, they would have promised him heaven and earth, and he possibly may have gone for monetary endorsement, incentive, and abandoned the cause. So it is high time for the Nigerian government and everyone standing on the part of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu to understand that this man is not driven by economic or material interests. He cannot be swayed by this materialism and whatever you might call it. He is not driven by quest to fulfill, to gratify his senses, to build houses, to buy mansions here and there at the expense of the masses, at the expense of the development of different regions. Otherwise, he would have sold out the people he is representing and to go and continue to enjoy himself. But he considered that as a deceptive destruction, which he could not. He's after his own people that they might live and have experience of liberty, of freedom being expressed, and maximize, of course, their own potential, God-given potential. Now, turn Scott into battlefield. Mazen Nnamdi Kanu turns Scott into battlefield, vows to expose hidden truths that will shake the nations to the core. The hidden truth that will shake the foundation of Nigeria, of the nation, the foundation of injustice, the foundation of subjugation to the core. Nnamdi Kanu defending himself is one of the boldest and riskiest moves Nigeria had ever experienced since its creation. Again, Nnamdi Kanu defending himself in the court is one of the boldest and riskiest moves Nigeria had ever experienced since its creation. It is not just a mere coincidence, and some might suggest. It is not just a mere entertainment, and some quarters might speculate. It has a weight of implications, and it is here to expose certain untouchable, supposedly political elite within the corridor of power who are complicit to his extraordinary rendition, or who possibly may have one vital role to play in affirming his innocency and the right to defend his inalienable right to self-determination. Definitely. The reason why he has categorized them as vital and compellable witnesses that will be called up in the course of his defense. As Justice James Omotoso has called, put up your defense, start your defense, and the rest of them. He might eventually end up strangulating the Nigerian legal system. Being that uh, Nigeria has no jurisdictional competence to try him on the basis of his extraordinary rendition as being ruled by an appellate court of law on the 13th of October 2022, discharging and acquitting Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of all the allegations bordering on treason, terrorism, and the rest of them. You can imagine Mazi Nnamdi Kanu being considered as uh, uh, as a terrorist. It is unheard for, it's uncalled for. It is quite very unfortunate and uh, senseless as far as I'm concerned, and majority of the people are concerned, that he's fighting for his human protected right, of course, to self-determination. Now let's go ahead with this development. Have you ever heard the man speak in the radio before? He calls names that most lawyers are afraid to mention. That is quite interesting. And blast everything without fear or filter. Now that he is standing alone in court, it is a storm waiting to happen because he is not a lawyer. You can't hold him back with legal boundaries. Nnamdi Kanu keeps outplaying Nigeria step by step. These are his submissions, and it's quite interesting. Honestly, he's not a lawyer by profession that you could hold bound with legal boundaries and limitations and the rest of them. He speaks the truth to the powers without fear or favor, as he expressly maintained. These are one of the four cardinal points of the indigenous people of Biafra, speaking the truth at all times, he maintained, and being bold, never to be afraid or cowed down in the face of supposed enemies. It is an interesting development to watch, honestly, as people across all walks of life has continued to demand for the unconditional release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who, for crying loud, has not committed any known crime against the Nigerian state, has not contravened any law within the Nigerian legal jurisprudence. Nigeria, being a signatory to the United Nations, of course, have regard for the rule of law and the right of the people and individual to self-determination. Is never a crime against any state as far as United Nations international treaty and conventions are concerned. So he is within the ambit of the law, protected and even favored by the provisions of the law. This he has maintained uh, undoubtedly, regardless of the pressure to disembark from his quest and defense of his freedom and that of his people. It's an interesting development. I know this will attract more persecutions, conspiracies, gang up, and the rest of them, even as she wrote out this new list compelling certain individuals to be part of this witness list. Well, let's see how that will go. Whether these people could be compelled to appear before the court. Then otherwise, it should be considered a rep to the Nigerian constitution and violating certain provisions of the constitution that compels the witness to appear. Let's see whether they are above the law, as of course has been the case, or being protected by certain political alignments and interests. It's an interesting development. It's an eye-opener. Possibly will be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Only time will tell. Kanu defending himself is deeper than people think, said a source close to the case. His lawyer didn't just step aside. There is serious tension about what might be revealed in courts. There is serious tension about what might be revealed in the courts because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is now involved. Of course, the case continues tomorrow, being today. I mean, the hearing continues eventually today. Having been observed yesterday and today being the 24th of October, it continues. So let's see how that goes. He wants to speak for himself, mention names like Wike, Sanwo-Olu, Boratai, and uncover hidden truths that could shake at the foundation of the nation. It is dangerous, but it shows he is done with being victors. He wants the truth, raw, straight, and loud.